You never really forget the night someone tests your loyalty like it's some kind of twisted game show. It was 3 years ago. I remember it like a splinter you never quite get out, tiny, but every time life rubs against it, it stings. Clint and I were celebrating our anniversary. 7 years. Nothing fancy, just a bar downtown where we used to go when we were dating. The kind of place with sticky tables, cheap cocktails, and a jukebox that always skipped halfway through Springsteen. He went to the bathroom, and I ordered another drink. And that's when the man slid into the empty seat beside me. Early 40s. Confident. Sharp shirt. A little too smooth. "You alone?" he asked, voice low, smile practiced. I didn't answer. Just raised my eyebrow and took a sip. He laughed. "Look, I'm not trying to be creepy. You're just stunning. Now, I've been hit on before. This wasn't new. But something felt off." His eyes kept flicking toward the hallway near the restrooms. Like he was performing. I asked him straight, "Do you know Clint?" His smile froze. Just for a second. Then he leaned back and muttered something like, "Nice try," and walked off. Clint came back 30 seconds later. Overly casual. "Everything okay?" And in that moment, I knew. We didn't talk about it that night. But 2 days later, I confronted him. And he caved. "Babe, I just needed to know. To be sure. We've been off lately and I don't know. I was scared." Scared. That's what he called it. Like planting a stranger to hit on me was some vulnerable act of love. I should have been furious. Honestly, I was. But I also saw something else, fear, insecurity, the kind of self-doubt he never let anyone see. And somewhere deep in me, I pitied him. So I forgave him. He swore he'd never do anything like that again. Promised he trusted me. That he just had to know I was still his. He said it wouldn't happen again. And it didn't. At least, not like that. But you want to know the worst part? I let that memory fade. I pushed it to the back of my mind. Convinced myself it was an ugly footnote in an otherwise steady marriage. Until recently. Until I started noticing the same energy, only flipped. Clint, now the distant one. The secretive one. Always on his phone. Less kisses. Less eye contact. Cold, in that subtle way that doesn't show up in photos, but you feel it in your chest when he says, "Love you," like it's an obligation. That's when the memory came rushing back. That stupid bar. That planted man. The fake smile. And I realized something that stopped me cold. If he once needed proof, why shouldn't I? You'd think after a decade together, you'd be able to spot the signs. And honestly, I could. I just didn't want to admit what they were. It started small, the way it always does. He stopped lingering in the mornings. You know those moments, right? When you're still half asleep but your partner touches your back, or brushes your hair off your face just because they want to. That stopped. At first, I chalked it up to stress. Work was rough, we'd both been tired, blah blah blah, all the usual excuses you feed yourself when the truth feels too sharp to swallow. But then came the phone. Clint used to leave it everywhere. Kitchen counter. Nightstand. Once even in the fridge by accident. Now? It was glued to him. Always face down. Always locked. And if I so much as walked behind him while he was texting, the screen vanished like he was disarming a bomb. He'd smile less. Not in a sad way, in a calculated way. Like he was holding back something he didn't want to spill by accident. And that old tension in my chest came back. The same one I felt years ago in that bar. Only this time, it wasn't from being tested. It was from watching the man who once tested me slowly fail his own damn standards. The irony wasn't lost on me. Back then, he said he just needed reassurance. That he loved me too much to lose me. So he staged that ridiculous bar stunt and called it love. So what now? What's this cold shoulder? These late meetings, these texts at midnight he says are work-related? What kind of love is this? One night, I caught him staring at his screen, smiling. I asked, "What's funny?" He looked up too quickly. "Oh, just a meme. You wouldn't get it. Inside joke from work." That was the night I stopped pretending. I lay awake for hours, staring at the ceiling, my gut twisting with that awful question, am I losing him? Or did he already let go, and I just haven't caught up yet? And that's when it hit me. If he once needed proof of my loyalty, why couldn't I ask for the same? No yelling. No accusations. No going through his phone like some unhinged cliché. Just a mirror. A setup. I didn't want revenge. I wanted clarity. The truth, served cold and undeniable. So I made a decision. Test for test. Let's see if Mr. I just needed to know could pass his own. Some people have therapists. I have Rachel. We've been friends since college, the kind of friendship that's been through every version of me, the broken turn, the starry-eyed newlywed, the woman who once cried over burnt lasagna and called it a metaphor. She's seen me at my rawest and never blinked. So when I told her I needed a favor, and that it wasn't going to be pretty, she didn't hesitate. She just sipped her wine and said, "Talk." I laid it all out. Clint's behavior. The shift in tone. The nights he went for a drive and came back with nothing but silence. And then I told her the part that made my stomach twist. I want to test him. Rachel didn't flinch. You mean, like, that thing he did to you? I nodded. But this time, real. No actors. No rehearsed lines. Just truth. She leaned back, quiet for a second. Then, what's the setup? I exhaled. Simple. You bump into him. Public place. Keep it casual. He flirts. You follow. He backs off. You disappear. No touching, I added quickly. No leading him. Let him make the move. Rachel smirked. So, basically, I just exist and see if your husband forgets he's married. Exactly. We picked the cafe carefully, not one I'd ever go to with him, but close enough to his office to feel organic. Timing was precise. Rachel would be there early afternoon, just reading, sipping her overpriced oat milk latte. If Clint walked in, great. If not, we'd wait. I wrote the rules down. Not because I didn't trust her, but because I needed structure. This wasn't about trapping him. It was about eliminating doubt. No cleavage. No suggestive texts. Don't fish. Don't pursue. Just respond if he bites. Rachel read the list, then looked at me. You sure you're ready for this? I paused. Was I? Honestly, I didn't know. I wasn't sure what hurt more, the possibility that Clint would take the bait, or that part of me already expected he would. But I nodded anyway. Yes. Because this wasn't about vengeance. It wasn't even about catching him. It was about symmetry. He once looked me in the eye and said, I had to be sure. Fine. Now so do I. That night, I didn't sleep. My body ached with tension, like my bones knew something I wouldn't admit. But beneath the nerves, there was something steadier. Resolve. I wasn't sabotaging my marriage. I was protecting myself, from more wasted years, from lies dressed up as routine, from the slow erosion of trust that feels like nothing until there's nothing left. So the next morning, I watched the clock tick toward noon. And waited for Rachel's message. It happened faster than I thought it would. Rachel texted me at 12:42 p.m. He's here. Just those 2 words, and my stomach dropped. I was at home, pretending to fold laundry, phone clutched like it was oxygen. My fingers went cold. It's funny, you plan for something like this, you script every possible outcome, but nothing prepares you for the moment it stops being theoretical. I sat on the edge of the bed, heart pounding so loud I could hear it in my ears. 12:49 p.m. He ordered coffee. Sat next to me. Eye contact twice. I'm staying neutral. Good. We'd rehearsed that. Casual. Present, but not available. Rachel was perfect at this, confident, beautiful in that effortless way, but never pushy. The kind of woman who could walk into a room and make someone feel like the most interesting person alive without saying a word. 12:55 p.m. He just said, "You come here often?" I stared at the message for a full minute. That tired, dusty pickup line from a man who once wrote me poetry on napkins. From a man who said I was his only home. 12:57 p.m. He asked my name. Told him Grace. Fake name. Just like we agreed. 1:02 p.m. A photo came in. Rachel sitting at the window. Clint across from her, elbow on the table, leaning in. His smile, the same one I used to get before he kissed me goodnight. I zoomed in on his hand. No wedding ring. That hit harder than anything else. We never made a big deal about jewelry. But still, he always wore it. Said it grounded him. Reminds me I've got something solid, he once told me. Now? Nothing. 1:07 p.m. He asked if I'm seeing anyone. I said no. He said, "Lucky me." I felt it, that twisting sensation in my gut. Not like heartbreak. More like nausea. Not from betrayal, not yet. But from how easy it came to him. The reflex. This wasn't a man torn up inside. This wasn't someone struggling with temptation. This was someone who flirted like he was free. 1:14 p.m. He just gave me his number. She sent a screenshot. His contact info. First name only. Clint, period. No context. No, just in case. No, work-related. Clean. Direct. Deliberate. And that was it. I sat on the floor, phone in hand, pulse slow and heavy. I didn't cry. I didn't throw things. I just stared at his number, like maybe it would morph into something else. Something that made sense. But it didn't. Because the truth had a shape now. Clear. Undeniable. He'd passed me once. Years ago. When he set the test. But now? Now he didn't even hesitate. And that hurt in a way I didn't know how to name. The first message came that same night. Simple. It was really nice running into you today, smiley face. Rachel sent me the screenshot at 7:03 p.m. And just like that, the script was gone. Clint had taken the wheel. The man who used to say he hated texting strangers. The man who once told me emotional cheating was worse than anything physical. That same man was now sitting on our couch, 5 feet from me, texting another woman with a smiley face and no shame. I watched it unfold like a movie I couldn't pause. The next morning. What kind of work do you do? An hour later. I bet you're good at it. Then, by lunch. You have this energy, it's rare. I didn't know what part of me hurt more, the woman reading those words, or the woman who used to receive them. Because I recognized every sentence. The phrasing. The rhythm. He was using the same charm he once used on me, only now it felt cheap. Lazy. Like muscle memory rather than meaning. Rachel answered lightly, never initiating, always forwarding me the receipts. Thanks, smiley face. Busy day here too. LOL, I guess I do talk a lot when I'm nervous. She never crossed a line. She didn't need to. He was the one stepping over it, over and over again. By the end of that week, he sent this. There's something about you. I don't know what it is yet. But I want to. I had to read it 3 times. This, from the man who once told me I was the only woman who got him. Who said he wasn't the type to wander, that he'd rather fix than flee. The man who, when his friends got divorced, said, I'd never put someone through that. Now here he was. Volunteering himself for the same wreckage. And it wasn't about sex. Not yet. It was intimacy. He was opening doors that should have stayed shut. Offering pieces of himself to someone who didn't even exist. Grace was a lie, a shadow. And yet, he treated her like something real. Meanwhile, with me, conversations were shallow. Polite. Like we were roommates who didn't want to fight over bills. He didn't notice I was quieter. That I avoided eye contact. That dinner went untouched. Or maybe he did. And just didn't care. Either way, I knew something for certain now. Clint wasn't slipping. He was choosing. Choosing to disconnect from me, and invest in a fantasy he barely knew. Choosing to betray what we built, not in one dramatic moment, but in 100 small texts, sent with a smile. And every message he sent was another crack in the story I'd been trying to hold together. Because when someone once swears they'd never break your trust, and then quietly, casually, does exactly that, you stop wondering if they've changed. You just start asking how long ago it started. By the second week, Clint stopped pretending. The texts turned longer. More personal. Less, what do you do, and more, you're the only one I can really talk to. Rachel kept sending them. Screenshot after screenshot. I'd lie in bed, back turned to him, pretending to scroll through the news while actually reading every word he'd sent to someone he didn't even know. Sometimes I feel like I'm not even in a marriage anymore. She's a good person, but we've grown apart. I don't feel seen in my own home. He never named me. But he didn't have to. Every line was a surgical cut. I watched the man who once told me I was the calm in his chaos, now cast me as some distant stranger, the villain in his story. I wasn't mad. Not in the yelling, plate-throwing way. No, this pain was quieter. Heavier. Because betrayal doesn't always scream. Sometimes it whispers sweet nothings into someone else's inbox while you're 2 rooms away making dinner. What got me most wasn't what he said. It was how effortless it was. There was no inner struggle. No guilt. No second guessing. Just a man spilling his soul to a woman he thought he had a shot with, even if she was a stranger with a fake name. He told Grace things he hadn't told me in years. About feeling stuck in life. About how he sometimes wanted to drive until the map ended. About how he hated the version of himself that came home every night, and how she made him feel like the man he used to be. Rachel, to her credit, never gave him more than she had to. I'm sure she doesn't mean to make you feel that way. Marriage is hard. But it's not hopeless. Do you think she'd listen if you told her this? But Clint wasn't interested in fixing anything. He wanted a mirror. And Rachel gave him just enough reflection to keep going. You get me, he wrote one night. With you, I feel alive again. I read that line 5 times. Alive again. Like our life, the real one, with bills and arguments and movie nights and shared flu seasons, wasn't enough. Like he died somewhere in our routine, and this little fantasy brought him back to life. That's what emotional cheating does. It gives people the illusion of rebirth, without requiring them to bury anything real. And maybe that's what cut the deepest. Not that he wanted someone else. But that he wanted it so easily. So quietly. No fight. No crisis. Just a slow fade out of us and into her. Every word he typed was a quiet goodbye I never got to hear. So no, I wasn't angry anymore. I was grieving. Grieving a marriage that was still technically intact, but hollowed out from the inside. And the worst part? He didn't even notice he'd killed it. It came at 10:14 p.m. on a Thursday. Rachel forwarded the message without comment. Just a screenshot. Clint. I know a place. No pressure. Just, quiet. Just us. I want to see you, not in public. Not like that. Beneath it, the address of a hotel. Downtown. Discreet. Mid-range. And a time, Saturday, 6:30 p.m. I stared at it for a long time. Not because I was shocked, I wasn't. But because that was the moment the fantasy officially stepped into the physical world. No more emotional gray zones. No more, maybe he's just venting. This was the line. And he crossed it. Rachel didn't have to say anything. She knew she wasn't going. That wasn't the plan. Not tonight. This time, it was my turn. I made the call. Reserved the room myself. Same number. Same name he gave them. Paid in advance. Key ready by 5:45. I arrived early. Sat in silence. No music. No TV. No scrolling. Just me. For almost an hour, I stared at the door, trying to imagine the version of myself I needed to be in 5 minutes. Not a wife. Not a victim. Not a woman about to fall apart. Just someone who needed to see the truth land face first in real time. At 6:28, I heard steps in the hallway. Then the soft tap of a keycard. The door opened. Clint walked in. Button-down shirt, hair neat, the nervous but excited look of a man who still thinks he's in control of the evening. He stepped inside, eyes searching the room for someone who wasn't me. And then he saw me. Sitting in the armchair by the window. Legs crossed. Calm. Hands resting on the arms like I'd been there my whole life. His entire face dropped. Not anger. Not guilt. Just pure, stunned disbelief. Linda. I nodded. Didn't smile. Didn't move. Silence stretched for a full 10 seconds, the kind that suffocates. He blinked, took a half step back, like he wasn't sure if this was real. Like maybe if he closed the door and opened it again, Rachel, Grace, would be waiting instead. I broke the silence first. So this is what makes you feel alive? He opened his mouth. No words came out. I stood slowly. Walked past him. Calmly took his phone out of his hand. Unlocked. I tapped the thread. Scrolled. Read aloud. Just you and me. I don't want to think. I just want to be near you. My wife doesn't need to know. He flinched. I handed the phone back. I know, I said quietly. Every message. Every word. He shook his head once, twice, like he could undo it if he just moved fast enough. Linda, wait, this isn't what it looks like. I laughed. Not loud. Just, hollow. Don't insult me. Not after this much work. He looked down. His face was pale. Hands shaking. I was lonely, he said finally. I didn't know how to talk to you anymore. I nodded slowly. And instead of trying, you went shopping for a new version of me. One who didn't know your tells. Who couldn't see through you. He didn't answer. I picked up my bag. Walked to the door. Right before I left, I turned back once. You remember that night? At the bar? When you tested me? He froze. I smiled. Now you know how it feels. And I walked out. No tears. No second look. Just the weight of everything crashing behind me. Where it belonged. He called 5 times that night. I didn't answer. By the 6th, I put my phone on airplane mode, laid it face down on the kitchen table, and sat in the dark. Not crying. Not shaking. Just, still. There's a kind of silence that comes after the final truth, not peaceful, not painful. Just a numb, ringing quiet, like the last vibration of a bell that's already cracked. The next morning, he was at the door. Disheveled. No overnight bag. Just him, with a look I hadn't seen in years, desperation without direction. I didn't say anything. He did. I was stupid. Linda, I was, God, I didn't plan to actually do anything. I got lost. I missed feeling like someone saw me. I watched him talk. The hands. The pacing. The stammering rhythm of someone trying to outpace the weight of his own choices. You weren't supposed to be there, he said finally. I just needed to talk to someone. I never would have gone through with it. I tilted my head. Would you have told me? Silence. He looked away. I already knew the answer. He stepped closer, voice soft. We've been off. You know we have. You felt it too. I didn't know how to fix it. And seducing someone else seemed easier than trying? I asked. He winced. It wasn't real. I just wanted to feel wanted. That word. Wanted. As if I hadn't built an entire life around making him feel that. I folded my arms. Stepped back. You once tested me, I said quietly. And when I passed, I forgave you. Not because I was weak. But because I believed you when you said you were scared. He opened his mouth, stopped. I took a breath. But now? You weren't scared. You weren't confused. You were bored. Lazy. And selfish enough to think you'd get away with it. He took a step forward. I love you. I shook my head. No. You loved what I gave you. The comfort. The loyalty. The version of yourself that felt righteous next to me. He froze. I moved toward the door, picked up my keys. His voice cracked behind me. So that's it? I turned, calm. That's clarity. He stared at me like he was seeing someone else, and maybe he was. Not the wife who used to overlook things. Not the woman who stayed quiet to keep the peace. But the woman who watched the whole show from the front row, and walked out before the final act. As I opened the door, I said one last thing. Now you know what it feels like, to be on the other end of a test you created. And I left. No screaming. No slammed doors. Just the click of my heels on concrete and the unmistakable sound of freedom. I filed for divorce on a Monday. No drama. No announcement. Just paperwork, signed and stamped. The same kind of forms people use to register a business or change a last name, dry, clinical, final. Clint tried to stop it, of course. He called. Texted. Left voicemails that swung between apologies and accusations. You're making a mistake. Can't we talk first? This isn't how love ends. He even sent a handwritten letter, 4 pages, cursive. The kind of letter that might have melted me 10 years ago. I didn't open it. Because at that point, I wasn't grieving him. I was grieving me. The version of myself who believed so fully in the life we were building. Who defended him to friends when he got distant. Who told herself, this is just a phase, every time he shut down or brushed me off. I grieved the woman who kept showing up with hope while he slowly checked out. People always assume the hardest part of leaving is the loss. But the real grief? It's realizing how long you ignored your own needs just to keep a version of the story alive. I moved out within 3 weeks. Took only what was mine. Left the houseplants, the furniture, even the coffee machine he loved, not out of spite, but because I wanted nothing tying me to that space anymore. I didn't want to walk past the table where I once cried silently while he texted Grace across the room. I rented a small apartment downtown. Nothing fancy. Just mine. The first night alone, I didn't sleep. Not because I missed him, but because everything was quiet. No sound of him pacing in the hallway. No late-night phone vibrations. Just the echo of my own breath and the weight of reality finally settling. I started therapy. Not to ask why he did it, I stopped caring. But to figure out why I stayed so long in something that had already left me. The hardest question wasn't, why did he betray me? It was, why did I betray myself trying to keep him? That answer didn't come easy. It came in layers, in journal entries, in silence, in small realizations that showed up while brushing my teeth or grocery shopping alone. I stopped replying to his messages. Blocked his number. Set filters on my email. Not out of anger, but because every time I saw his name pop up, it felt like an anchor trying to pull me back into a ship I'd already abandoned. He didn't deserve space in my present. I began building routines. Coffee on the balcony. Morning walks. A book I never finished. Music that wasn't tied to any memories of him. And slowly, painfully, I started to feel something unfamiliar. Peace. Not joy, not yet. But peace. Not because everything was fixed. But because for the first time in years, I wasn't lying to myself anymore. It's been 3 years. Different city. Different job. Different name on the mailbox. Sometimes I walk through the grocery store and wonder if someone here would ever guess the woman comparing almond milks used to spend her nights reading Betrayal and screenshots. That she once sat in a hotel room, staring into the eyes of a man who promised forever and delivered a lie. But I don't live there anymore. Not in that story. Not in that version of me. Now. I wake up without waiting for the other shoe to drop. I drink my coffee slowly. Read in the mornings. I take photos of the sky when the colors get weird, and I don't have to explain it to anyone. I just do it because I like how it makes me feel. My job is demanding, project manager at a design firm. Long hours. High expectations. But the difference now is, no one gets to drain me emotionally before I even start the day. And yes, there's someone new. His name is Mark. We met at a community event, not online, not through friends. Just, life, doing its quiet magic when you're not forcing anything. He's kind. Not performative. He listens with his whole face. Says what he means and doesn't overpromise. There's no chase. No drama. Just clarity. And when he touches my back as we cross a street, or calls just to say he made dinner, I don't freeze. I don't second guess. Not because I believe no one will ever hurt me again. But because I trust myself now to never ignore the signs again. To never trade my peace for potential. To never abandon my own instincts just to keep someone else comfortable. Clint. He's a chapter one don't reread anymore. Not because I've erased it. But because I've outgrown it. The pain, the breakdown, the unraveling, it all mattered. It all shaped me. But it doesn't define me. And if there's one thing I learned, it's this. Closure doesn't always come from the person who broke you. Sometimes, it comes from the moment you realize you don't need them to say sorry anymore. You've already rebuilt what they tried to ruin. And it's stronger than it ever was. So no, I'm not afraid. Because the woman I am now? She doesn't fear betrayal. She fears forgetting her worth. And that, I will never let happen again.